Carlos Mercado Lara. I am a third year student at MIT, or fourth year now incoming, studying biological engineering. And I'm extremely thankful for everyone to be here in this conversation with SciTeens. SciTeens is a nonprofit organization which aims to empower the next generation of young scientists, specifically in Title I high schools. We've also done work with international students via programs also in Brazil and also in Zimbabwe. But essentially what we are is an online platform that we try to help students develop in their STEM interests. Some of the things that we've noticed and why we've been motivated to pursue this is I myself being a first generation college student, I realized having someone to look up to and guide you and kind of give you some advice when you're going, navigating what college to apply to or thinking about what you want to do with your future. Although you don't have to have everything figured out in high school, most certainly it's always nice to have a voice that can kind of guide you and give you some of that input. And one thing that we noticed in a lot of schools across the United States is that in Title I schools, specifically in low income areas, the students unfortunately don't have that support network. They don't have the teachers that perhaps are knowledgeable in some of the STEM fields or opportunities to participate in STEM oriented activities. So, and one of the things that we've noticed is like in advanced courses such as, math, AP physics, AP, some of these college courses that can be offered in high schools, they're offered at a lower rate in schools where predominantly the students that are there are from Latino or Black communities. So SciTeens here, we're trying to really change that a bit, doing our own impact through our platform online. Some of the things that we offer are articles in which we interview different students from across universities such as MIT, Florida State University, where we have some partnerships, as well as students that we meet across via our social media pages. Also offer advice through YouTube videos where we try to encourage students to get involved in STEM. So feel free to check those out. It's SciTeens is the same name for our YouTube channel. And lastly, we do offer free online courses, and we're actually offering one next month in physics. So if you're signed up to SciTeens, you can have all of this. It's pretty quick and simple. And one of the great things about these programs is that we bring in professors, teachers from universities that give their input on what it's like being in that field. And it's also taught by college students who are knowledgeable in those fields and also share a passion teaching students about a bit about what they do. So with that in mind, we use some of the collaborations with Florida State University. We also use open data sources. So whether you're here in the United States or internationally, all the data that we use for some of our data science courses are accessible via our website. So please make sure to sign up so you can reach out to these resources. But today, one of the things that we want to do is offer these guest speaker series. This is the last one of 3, and we're culminating with Angelica Castellanos and Daniela Velez, who are both MIT students studying computer science, and as well as with Rexella Gutierrez, who is also, he's from Miami, Florida, and he's also going to be here to provide some of his input on some of the things that he does in his field, which is also computer science. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave a quick contact information here for those of you. You've probably received my emails, but feel free to email me if you have any other questions about SciTeens. Make sure to visit our website and also our Instagram. Make sure to follow it, and we'll keep you posted there with any of our courses that we're offering, any of the articles that we're writing, as well as different resources that we're always looking for that will help you, the student, get engaged in STEM. So thank you so much, and I'll leave the floor now to Angelica Castellanos and Rexella Gutierrez. We'll be giving some time at the end as well for questions, but in the meantime, feel free to ask questions via the chat or unmute. We want to make this a conversation more than just a presentation, as that makes it more engaging for us as well. So thank you so much.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. We're super excited to be here. And thanks so much for SciTeens for having us today. Today, we'll be talking about many things from like life in college to like opportunities that you can take in college, or opportunity you can take in high school and in college, and any like tips that we have. We also like created like an opportunities doc that you can like reference throughout the presentation. And this has like links to some programs that we know of and that we participated in that we will be talking about later. So to get things started, I'll like introduce myself. So my name is Angelica, and I'm currently a senior at MIT, or a rising senior at MIT, which is pretty crazy because I still feel like a first year student. And I'm studying computer science and engineering and possibly minoring in Spanish. I'm not sure. But I'm from like South Florida, but my whole family's from Mexico. And I was actually the first person to be born in the US. And I'm like super passionate about computer science and like teaching other people about it. And in my free time, I like playing tennis, going to the beach, going to Disney, dancing, especially Zumba. I love Zumba, and writing. And yeah, that's about me. And this summer I'm working at Facebook. So if you have questions about that, like feel free to like interrupt me at any point. So yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Rexella Gutierrez. I'm also a rising senior studying at MIT, also studying computer science. And I was born in Cuba and emigrated when I was really young to the US, where I've grown up in Miami. So yeah, my Cuban roots have been really close to me at home. I'm currently a Google intern. This summer is actually my first internship, and it's a pretty cool experience. And uh, I really love video games and sports, specifically basketball. I'm a really big basketball fan. So if you guys want to ask me anything about that, make sure to contact me.
Yeah, so throughout the presentation, like feel free to interrupt us, and like you can either like talk through like the mic, or you can also like text us individually or in like the public chat. So to get things started, I'm going to talk about MINDS, which is short for the Minority Introduction to Engineering and Science. And I was actually a part of this program, and it's a 6-week free, like it's like free, like completely free residential program at MIT. So I think this is a really great program for people who are underrepresented and come from underserved backgrounds. And I literally love this program so much, and I encourage everyone to apply. And I posted again like the link to the application in the Google form thing that, or the Google Doc thing that I sent in the chat. So in this program, you get to learn about different things in STEM. And I personally learned linear algebra, like physics 2, like, and machine learning. And these classes, like except for physics 2, but these classes like my high school didn't offer. So I think this program is a really great way to take things or take opportunities outside of your school and to learn about many different things. And besides like learning about STEM, you also have like a lot of fun. Like we went to like Old Orchard Beach in Maine. We went all over Boston, had dance parties, and went to multiple events with food. And as many of you know, food is great. So yeah, so this is a great program to learn about STEM and to also have fun. And if you're interested in going to MIT, I encourage you to apply, because a lot of the time, like the people who get accepted into these programs also get accepted into the college. So if you're interested in applying to MIT, make sure to fill out that application. And there's also other summer opportunities, such as MOSTech, which is like another MIT program. And there's SAMS, which is like a Carnegie Mellon like computer science program. I wasn't part of those, but I also included those links in the doc because I encourage you guys to apply. And another thing you can do, this is more for like your senior year, but you apply like around, I applied during the summer of my junior year, but I think you're able to apply your junior year. And these are called fly-in programs. And these programs, like you can visit colleges for free. Like they pay for your flight to go there, and you stay there for like a weekend or like 4 days, and it's like super fun. And it's also like a great way to get to know the colleges that you're applying to. Because personally, like when I was applying to colleges, like I was terrified because I mean, you're gonna be there like for 4 years of your life and you just want to find the most perfect option for you. So this is like a great way to get to know the college firsthand. And one thing about this program is that you are hosted by a student there. So you also get to meet a friend. So if you, like, for example, I went to Carnegie Mellon and I got hosted there and I met someone who I got really close with. And if I return to that school, then I could, you know, like reach out to them and like get myself like more assimilated into the college. And I recommend this program for everyone. And there's so many of them. And I went to a lot. Like I listed all of them here. I don't even know if I listed all of them, if I'm being honest. Like I love traveling, so like I made sure to like go to these programs and also to like learn about the school. Besides learning about the school, you also get to do also very fun things. Like for example, in Columbia University, their flying program is called CE Squared. And we got to have like a boat party and like saw like the Statue of Liberty, which I thought was crazy, but it was like super, super fun. So if you're interested in these programs, make sure to apply early because most of them have like rolling admissions, which is essentially like kind of like first come, first serve. Like if you apply earlier, you have like a greater chance of getting into it. If you apply later, there are less spots. So it's like a lower chance of getting into it. So I encourage you to do your research, apply these programs. And yeah. And also like one tip, like a lot of the programs like have like the same format of the essay. So make sure to keep like a Google Docs with like all your essays. So it's like easier, you know, to like change a bit like the wording and stuff. Cause having like 100 essays to do is pretty difficult. And then you could just use one and like change it a bit to fit the other ones. So yeah, so that's about flying programs.
Yeah, so for the rest of the talk, we're gonna essentially be focusing on like 4 different topics. Specifically, first, like we're gonna talk about college advice, just general do's and don'ts. Then talk more about college applications specific. Talk about how like the research you should be doing, what you should be looking into. Um, Sort of like also we're talking about like resume, maybe starting to build your resume, as well as college essay, as Andrew's already alluded to, and just any application you have to, there's a lot of writing involved. Then we're gonna, once you actually have applied and you go into college, we're gonna talk about how college life is, kind of networking, like for example, starting a LinkedIn account, kind of clubs you want to be involved in, what you want to look into, and kind of the independence you have. Because when you're in college, there's a lot of opportunities, almost like too many opportunities. So then try to decide and focus on the stuff you're really passionate about is very important. And lastly, this is kind of more in the future, but internships, employment, and specifically our experience with computer science related internships. There's underclassmen programs that are more for freshmen and sophomore friendly, and then also obviously when you're applying somewhere, you have to interview. We're going to be talking about that. So first, we're going to talk about college advice. And one important college advice is the first one we have here in the post-it note is to challenge yourself. So a lot of colleges are looking at sort of, are you taking the hardest classes possible? That could be APs, maybe you do enrollment. I personally did a dual enrollment and also APs, and I essentially tried, I even changed schools actually from my sophomore year to my junior year just to challenge myself. I went to a more rigorous school where I was doing dual enrollment while I also did high school. And sort of that shows high schools that you're motivated to learn, you're hardworking. It kind of shows the type of person you are in that respect, especially academically. But at the same time, a lot of schools have different opportunities, right? Some schools don't even offer APs. I know a friend of mine that never took an AP, and now he's at MIT because he worked really hard and he took the hardest classes he could, right? So it's not necessarily that that you have to take APs, for example. The focus is on you having the mentality to do the best and try to not like take the easy way out of things or anything like that. It's try to, as again, challenge yourself. And also in challenging yourself, you might discover interest and stuff that you're passionate about. And that's really helpful in your college application process, as Andrew talked about.
Yeah, exactly what Rock said. I would have +1 to that. And another thing, like when you're approaching high school in general, you should always be having that mentality of like trying out new things to do, and like with the goal of like finding your passion. Like finding your passion is super important, because like once you do, like you're super interested in a topic and you want to do like more and more, and that could like help make like a positive, first like have a positive impact in your community, and second, it could also help you with your college essays in the future. So for example, like in my experience, like I took a chemistry class in my sophomore year of high school, and I loved chemistry after that. So like I built like the first chemistry club in my school. And this is just like an example of like finding your passion and like making a positive impact on your community. And then after that, like I explored chemistry further, and yeah. So you can also do the same thing. And I encourage you to, because finding your passion is important. And also your passion can change. Like you can, like, for example, now I'm majoring in computer science, you know? So I loved chemistry at first, and then I loved computer science. So yeah, so you'll have multiple things you're passionate about like throughout your life. Another thing I want to iterate is extracurriculars. These are so important. Like I understand like some schools like don't offer clubs, but maybe like seek out like extracurriculars outside of your school as well, which I will be talking about in the next post-it note. And like one advice that I got in my life that really helped me when applying to college is that like there are so many people with like good grades, you know, A's and B's or whatever grades. And like you have to find the thing that sets you apart from the rest of the applicants. And one way to do this is through extracurriculars. So always try to be involved in things and try to seek opportunities. And I encourage you all to be leaders in your community and like show people something that you're passionate about, and always have the mentality of making an impact. If I got a question in the chat. I love programming. If I create some website for my friends, it's a good idea. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, exactly. Like this is like a way to learn more about programming, which is in itself an opportunity. So I encourage you to do that. Like if you're passionate about programming, like make sure to just like look at Google and see like how ways to learn, and that's like a step further into your passion. So yes, that's a great idea, and I encourage you to do that. Yeah, programming is great. And also like if your school doesn't offer opportunities, and even if they do, I encourage you also to take opportunities outside of your high school. And this is because you shouldn't feel limited to your own school. And like, I know at the beginning of high school, I really did feel limited by my own school. And I decided to like learn more was outside of it. And this could take the form of like volunteering opportunities. So I like volunteered at Red Cross for like a really long time. And then also like the fly-in programs that I spoke about, and also like MITES. So like any of the summer programs. And if you do take them, you can meet other people like outside of your school. And you could also learn about new perspectives about life. Like when I volunteered at Red Cross, like I worked in a hurricane shelter. And like that really like changed my viewpoint about life, because like when you like hear other people's stories, you can learn like so much from them, and you can use their stories to, I guess, like gather like inspiration for yourself. Like, okay, like these people are going through a hardship, how can I change the world to be better? Another thing I encourage you guys to do is networking. Like I 100% encourage this. even in college, like any time in your life, like network. It's so important to build a community of connections that you can rely on. And this is how I found like most of my opportunities in high school, because like my school like never advertised these programs or never told us about them. So I found these like through mouth, I guess, like vocally, like talking to people. And I guess your connections can also like support you along your journey, since applying to college is scary. So like you can like talk to these connections, and like the fact that you're in this presentation is amazing. And this is also like a way to network. Like for example, like Carlos like shared his email, so make sure to like write that down, and if you have any questions on how you can get involved, you could possibly like message him in the future. So I also did this because I would email like admissions officers, like for MIT, for example, because I really wanted to go to MIT. And like, it's just a great way to show that you're interested in something and to learn about the school itself. So yeah. And oh my God, essays are so important. Like they're so important. And at least in my school, like everyone had the mentality that SATs were like everything. Like everyone was like, oh, I have to get like a 1500 or above to go to like a good school, or like, no, like I personally didn't like get that. Like I was so bad at standardized testing. So I wouldn't apply to college with the mentality that SATs are the most important thing. Like I would say like it's like a small percentage. I would highly encourage you to try. But if you don't get the score that you want, don't feel like you're not going to get into a great school, because I know I experienced that, and I'm at MIT now. So please don't think that. And the thing with essays is that they really want to know who you are as a person, and make sure to highlight yourself in creative ways. Don't talk about your GPA, like your ranking, or don't talk about like how well you're doing in a class, because they'll see that on your resume, your transcript, and other forms. Like make sure to highlight things that you haven't highlighted yet in your application. And you can do this in multiple creative ways. And one thing that I will say is don't feel limited by because I know in many schools they teach like this 5-paragraph format. So don't feel limited by that format itself, because like I really like free writing in my own time. And like when I first started the college process, like I thought I had to do this 5-paragraph format. But then like I learned quickly that like don't do that. Just like be creative. For example, one of my friends did like an essay that had like a code snippet in it, which I thought was super cool and creative. And a code snippet is just a piece of a program. So they had like some program, like some language, and then it was like super like cool. And another thing that I did in my MIT applications is that, so I forgot the question, but anyway, I wrote about like my passion for tennis. And in this essay, like I connected it with how I could like further like develop like my relationship with my dad, because like him and I played tennis like almost every day in high school. And like I also wanted to show that I really liked writing poems, especially. So I made this essay into a poem structure. So I literally wrote a poem as my college essay. So you can like you should like make sure to maximize every single like maximize how much you can show about yourself. And like you can do this through like the actual structure of the essay itself, you know. And I actually got a question right now. So what did I put in my essay? So in my essay, I did highlight a lot about my background. So for example, like I spoke a lot about like how I'm from Mexico and how that influenced like my goals in life. And I also talked about like my passion about like, I guess bringing, I guess like, so I'm very passionate about like empowering women and minorities in STEM. So I made sure to highlight that in my essay because that's something that I want to do in college. And if they rejected me for that, then I mean, it's like it's good that they rejected me because then I can't accomplish my goals at that college, you know? You should make sure to highlight your goals, and you should also talk about like how your life experiences change who you are as a person. Like I really encourage you to get like in a very like deep level into that in your essays, and like make like a lot of connections, you know, like life is all about connections. Like you got to where you are for a reason, so you could like brainstorm and just like talk like about yourself through that way. So yeah, so that's like my advice for college, and I do want to iterate that essays are very important. And yeah, like please talk about yourself as much as you can. Yeah. And now we'll be moving on to college apps.
All right. So yeah, you have to keep all this advice in mind when you're applying to college because there's a lot of requirements, a lot of deadlines, and there's a lot of steps you have to keep it track of. So one really important thing is to do research. And it's not only research about these requirements, these deadlines, like what the school, like logistically what the school needs, but also like you have to research the school itself. For example, I remember because I specifically like really wanted to come to MIT. So I researched the school. I read like I think MIT has like blogs, like student blogs. And I remember reading that, and I really just from that, from the student perspective, I really like got attracted to the school and really wanted to come. And then I used that because I had a interview for MIT. I think MIT requires an interview unless maybe they don't, maybe you're too far, you're in more remote location. But in that interview, I essentially highlighted that and mentioned a lot of things that I learned from my own research about MIT, its culture, and like the academics and all that. And the way I answered the questions that my interviewer had, I think really reflected based on how much I learned about MIT before coming there. And she even said like I mentioned something that no other interviewer mentioned, and I think that shows that like all the research I did into the school before applying really helped out. And not only and then when you're doing this research, it's not you kind of you can use it to essentially then see what is the right school for you because you know, maybe you want to go to public or private school, and that also deals with financial aid that we'll talk about later. But also the location, like I personally, my philosophy was that if I was to go kind of far away from where I lived, I might as well just go out of state or go to like a private university, for example. It really depends, and that's also like part of like what you and your family have to decide on all that. But really importantly is what you want to study, right? So we talked about like creating like passions and like focusing on stuff that you really like during high school, and then you want to kind of find a college that reflects that. So I personally was interested in more of a STEM field, so I looked at schools that had really good computer science programs and stuff like that. So that's kind of the research you want to do and how you want to focus your research. Besides that, going back to like the logistical stuff, you want to look at the requirements for schools. For example, MIT has subject scores, SAT subject scores. So it's like almost like additional to just SAT scores. And for you have to take like certain math subject tests, and then also a science one. I think I did physics, but you could do probably chemistry, and I think there's biology. Um, Besides that, also one specific thing I did is because I I I like interdisciplinary stuff. So in high school, I really liked, for example, like my social studies classes. in particular, I took like the subject test for US history, and I did really well, and I was really happy about that because it kind of showed that I now don't only like STEM. Like right now, I'm minoring in public policy, for example. So it kind of also not shows that you have a lot of like more passions, and you can kind of highlight that and diversify yourself with that too. And I think there was something in the chat. How do you consider the location of the school? Was distance from home something that was difficult to handle? Personally, I don't think that I actually kind of wanted to gain more independence from being home, and that's why I kind of almost preferred going away because that way I like, for example, now at MIT, I've learned how to cook, kind of how to take care of myself more, and also kind of be more of a boss of myself. It's like so being more independent. So I think I took that into account. Maybe if right now you don't have you're not exactly ready for that, then you maybe want a school that is closer to home. So that's something to consider. It depends on you personally. Yeah. And okay. Oh, sorry. So as Andrew already touched upon a lot about essays, but and I agree with a lot of what she says, essentially everything. You really just want to be yourself. So I personally also wrote, as Ange did, like about myself. I have, I guess, as because I was an immigrant, and that really impacted kind of how I grew up. My parents sacrificed a lot for me, and I think that really instilled sort of kind of like my work ethic and how I am as a person. So I really highlighted that in a story. I essentially uh, wrote a story about how I immigrated here, and like essentially all the impacts it's had on me, and like very specific snippets of my life that were really meaningful to me and how it really impacted me. So it's about being genuine. It's about being yourself. If you're not being yourself, you might as well, you kind of don't want that college to accept you, because is that really you? You kind of want to, if you put yourself out there, you put the person you are out there, and the college accepts you, that just feels more natural and organic. And I think that's just the kind of the philosophy to have with that. Also, you might want to have your English teacher, for example, review it for grammar stuff, and also friends, like just to see how it sounds, and like, and someone that knows you really well, because they will know based on your writing if you are coming across as genuine and you're talking really about yourself, you're highlighting your strengths, and really putting like who you are out there. Additionally, there are some interesting prompts. I remember like I got one where it's like, if you had a ticket to go anywhere in the world, where would it be? Why? What would you do? And like you should be prepared for that kind of those prompts, but not really prepared, but like more so like prepare for it. So like you don't want to take essays lightly. They're really important, as Anne said. Like SAT scores are just a part of like your application process and kind of what the schools look at. So the essays really show and are an opportunity for you to really stand out amongst like numbers and more kind of numerical statistics. So I really encourage, as Anne said, to focus on your essays and don't take them lightly. And yeah. So Anne's now going to talk about early action.
Yeah, and there was also a question in the chat. It said, do job recruiters recruit applicants who went to better college university, even when they have the same experience in majoring? So that's like a great question. I would say that make the, like, I wouldn't, like, definitely not, like, they don't only take care, or they don't only consider your university when recruiting you. Like, it's honestly, college is about what you make out of it. So even if, like, for example, you don't go to Ivy League or anything, don't feel like you're not going to get a job or anything. Because honestly, like, so many of the people at Facebook that I met aren't from these schools. So it's honestly like what you make out of the college experience yourself. So like wherever you end up, it's a great school, and just like always take opportunities. And if you do that, then you'll be fine. Yeah. And so yeah, so early action is like when you can like apply to college like early, like not on regular decision. So I actually applied to MIT Early Action. So I applied, oh yeah, my application was due like Halloween, so October 31st. And yeah, so I encourage you to do this if you can, because you'll get your college decision sooner. And like personally, like I got into MIT Early Action, so I like completely like stopped stressing about college applications, which was really good because that's a very stressful period of time. And Rax will talk about recommendations.
Right. So colleges, I think they might require, or if they recommend recommendations, you should really do them. And when like seeing who should do recommendation, it's again kind of the same philosophy of who represent you in the best way. It doesn't have to be like specific to academics. It could be your counselor, it could be a coach. There's a lot of options for like who should be writing a recommendation letter, and there are different requirements. I think some do require a counselor and stuff like that. But you really want to focus on someone that knows you personally and can really speak to your character and who you are. And kind of if you think about how Anne said that there's all these connections, like the recommendation letters that teachers or counselors, etc., will write about you should also kind of reflect what you yourself are writing, and kind of the work you showed academically and all that. That should all sort of create a story about you and who you are, right? So that's also really important. And choosing who will write your recommendations is something to really consider as well. Lastly, we're going to talk about financial aid really quickly. And essentially, financial aid is a little complicated and really depends on your circumstance. Like it's very personal. But one thing personally that I've noticed is from applying to like various colleges and looking at their financial aid is when I saw that typically like really good schools, universities that are like, for example, private universities like MIT, they provide really, really good financial aid. And it's likely that you should be able to go to, and it shouldn't be a financial burden. And you can always discuss it with them. Also, public in-state colleges, they're really good. And at least here in Florida, like you could essentially go to college for free. It's very easy. Like if you did really well, just almost academically in high school, and I'm sure other states do that as well. However, public out-of-state colleges, I feel like those like public out-of-state fees or like just tuition, all that, it's a lot higher for instead of in-state, and I feel like you receive way less help financially, at least from my personal experience. So I think you should also be prepared for that. If, for example, I applied to Georgia Tech, which is out of state and a public university, and I feel like their financial aid was not very good compared to like the private universities and public in-state, which is, I would say, likely the best considering financial aid. Also, I actually hosted someone who came to MIT, and they got accepted to MIT right at this point, but they eventually ended up going to the University of Florida because it was an in-state school and it was better for them financially. So there's a lot of factors when then eventually going to college, and ultimately it's at the end of the day, it's more of like what you make out of your resources. Like I said, like there's almost like a overwhelming amount of opportunities, and you kind of need to make the best of it, like with the resources you have. Now we're going to continue and talk about college life.
Yeah, so just to iterate about financial aid, there's also like a lot of scholarships you can apply to, and I'll like include the links for some of them like in the document that I shared. So yeah, so college life. So the first thing I want to talk about is like imposter syndrome. So because a lot of people feel this way, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about it. So imposter syndrome is like the feeling of doubting your abilities, like when you get to college. And personally, I had really bad imposter syndrome as a freshman. But one of the advice I got that I want to share with you guys is that someone told me like just focus on yourself. And it's like so true. Like you should always be focusing on yourself, because so many times like you compare yourself with other people. And I know like in high school, like they put this mentality in you through rankings, through GPA, through this and that. but don't do that to yourself. Okay, don't compare yourself. Just always be you and do yourself. Like, try to focus on learning, on growing as a person. And like, once you get to that mentality, like, you'll feel like very like at peace and just like be the best person you can be. And like, I really want to like tell you guys, just please focus on yourself, even in high school, in college, in life. Just be you, do things that you love to do. And yeah, that's just like the best motto you can live by. And another thing about college is that you really find who you are. Like, when I got to college, like, I was in between like studying chemistry, economics, and computer science. So I took classes, like did opportunities, and then I like found out that I just really loved computer science. So like in college, you should always be taking opportunities, and you should always come with a mentality of learning, even things that you think you might not like. For example, like, I did like an acting class, but at the beginning, like, I was like, I'm not gonna like this because I have stage fright. So I was like terrified, but I ended up loving it. So I might like do some acting in the future. So yeah, just like always try to learn new things, even if it's something like way out of your major or like your interests, just to see if you're interested in it. It doesn't hurt to try new things. And Rax will talk about finding your community.
Yeah, so going to college, especially if you're going away from home, it's very difficult, and you kind of want to focus on not only the academics but on the personal side, having a good group of friends or community that you can always go to and supportive, that you support each other, and kind of empower. As Anne said, you empower each other. For example, Ange and I, we both live in a cultural living group, essentially in the dorm, or essentially where we live. And it's like a group of people. There's primarily Hispanics that, like, we live together, we cook together, and it's a really, really supportive living space that we do a lot of activities, and we provide a lot of advice, right? Because right now we're rising seniors, but before we're freshmen, and the seniors at the time really helped us out and gave us advice, academically, personal, just any college advice. And it really helps out to have a community there, to help you, like, almost, and that you see on a daily basis, and you feel close to, and you feel like you could ask about just about anything. So make sure to definitely reach out and find your community. Now we will talk about internships very quickly. And we'll be talking about networking more specific with this.
Yeah, so when you get to college, like, make sure to start networking as soon as possible. So open up a LinkedIn account. Like, honestly, this is what I did my freshman year, and it was like super helpful because you could start building connections from like day one. And like I would also recommend visiting like your college's like career development center to work on your resume and like any essays that you have to do for jobs. And regarding networking as well, like career fairs are just like fairs where you can like talk to job recruiters, and like LinkedIn is a great way to like connect with these recruiters. And like, don't feel discouraged as a freshman to not go, because you should go even if you don't have any experience. And there will be times where people like discourage you, but honestly, this is a great, like, I recommend it 100%, because then like the recruiters will know you since your first year, and they could connect with you later. And like, one story that I'm going to quickly share is that like I went to a company like my freshman year, and they literally laughed at my resume because I had no experience like whatsoever. But then they tried to recruit me like in my junior year. So I'm just like, okay, so don't feel discouraged, like, so yeah, so I'm gonna quickly talk about FBU Step Explore Microsoft. So like, these are like computer science programs that you can like participate as like a first year and second year college student. And I recommend you apply because like if you're interested in computer science particularly, you'll do like a software engineer internship. And like these internships are very like difficult, and like like these programs are a way to like, I guess like get you started in it, and like they're kind of like they show you a little bit of what it's like to be a software engineer internship. And I recommend you doing these programs 100%. And Rex will quickly talk about interviewing.
Yeah. So when you're applying to jobs, like the typical process is at first you, right, as after networking, which is really important, you send your resume, which you should be building up to this point and keeping updated. And that's kind of a hard stage. After they look at your resume, then you move on sort of into interviews, and specifically behavioral interviews kind of look at you as a person. They ask you kind of what challenges or difficulties you face when working in a project. And it's really kind of like about you personally. It's not like the technical work aspect of it, just more of how you work. Also, there's sample questions that you can look up, and there's even various methods to answer these type of questions and prepare for them. Like I think there's a STAR method, for example. So there's a lot of research that you could do about that. And lastly, there's typically for like computer science, and there's other jobs too. There's like a technical interviews that's more job specific. So for example, you might be doing like uh, coding challenges that might be online, but then there's also like interviews where you like talk to a person and you work out through like a problem, or one, like it could be 2 to 3 problems. And Ange and I did a program called Code Path that was really, really good. Like literally like Google engineers and like Facebook engineers, all this, they are the teachers in these programs, and they really, really help you prepare. They have like essentially almost like insider information of how to prepare for technical interviews in specific. You can also do mock interviews with your friends to prepare, and it's really good like that. Yeah. So that concludes our presentations, and I know some of you already asked questions, but if you have any more, please feel free to. Yeah.
Yes, LeetCode does prepare you for tech interviews. Honestly, like this is like one of the best ways to learn. And actually, like the program Rox spoke about, like Code Path, like they give you a lot of LeetCode questions to like do and like talk about like during the class. So yes, LeetCode, it's amazing. Also, I'm gonna drop my email down in the chat in case you guys have any more questions. Yeah, I'm going to do a program that's like working. Yeah, definitely put like in your high school resume, like you can have like as many pages as you want. I know I had like 3 or something. So just like put everything you've ever done in high school, and because I mean you worked hard, right? So just like make sure to put everything. So yeah, so this is a good question. So they definitely do look at how long you participated in. So that's why like it's always good to find something that you're passionate about doing and that you can continue all 4 years. Though I don't think it really matters. Oh wait, did I cut out? Oh. Oh wait, I think I just froze. Okay, sorry. But the thing is like I was always the type of person to hop between extracurriculars. So I don't know, like I guess like do a lot of things, but also you can also choose to just find your passion. Yeah. And like do that the whole time. So the only coding I did was AP computer science, and I honestly like I feel like I didn't know what coding meant. Like I just kind of like learned it, but like I didn't know exactly what it was or what I was getting into until college. And I don't know if Rax, did you know how to code?
Not too much, to be honest. Kind of similar to Ange. Like I took, I think like a dual enrollment class in my community college. And it wasn't the most helpful. Like I guess I kind of got an intro to that, but not too much experience before coming into MIT.
Oh, no interest in MECE, what are some opportunities that I should explore in college or internships? So there's actually like Facebook University is not only for engineering, it's also for like product design as well. So like if you're interested in going into more like the product design MECE side of things, then you should definitely apply to that. There's also like other like product design internships. I think I'm not sure, but I think Nike has one because one of my friends really wanted to apply to that one. So I would encourage looking at those programs.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Everybody give them a big round of applause.
Yeah.
Virtually. I think we're going to transition now. You can keep putting questions in the chat and they can continue answering your questions via the chat, I think is the best way to go about this. But we're going to transition now to Daniela. So all yours.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'll share some slides. Those slides were amazing. You guys set the bar really high, but I just wanted to add a little bit of structure to mine also. Let's see. Oh, not sure. Okay. So this is a little bit about me. I'm a sophomore on a gap year. So I'm starting my sophomore year this fall at MIT. I'm studying computer science and I'm doing a minor in urban studies and planning. Sounds like a fancy name, but I'm really just excited about global issues and helping, especially developing countries and seeing how to do social entrepreneurship. My clubs on campus, I'm involved in the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, along with Angelica. I'm also part of the exec for the Entrepreneurship Club on campus. It's called Start Labs. And I do Model UN, if you guys are familiar with it. If not, Model UN is basically, it's kind of like debate, a little bit different, but people go to conferences and they talk about how to draft solutions for global issues and collaborate and give speeches and all of that. And so at MIT, I help host the MIT Model UN conference for high schoolers. Thirdly, some of my passions are teaching coding to girls and empowering underrepresented groups. So that's kind of like a thread that's gone through everything I do. In high school, I was very involved in this. I've also tried to continue it through college. I did something at MIT called Code It, where we continue teaching coding to girls through like an after-school program. And those things kind of like bring me a lot of fulfillment and remind me, like bring me back to my roots and help me give back to the community. I'm also really interested in social impact entrepreneurship, like I mentioned. So I am always working at side projects. Right now I have a startup that I'm working on with a couple of my friends from Harvard and Dartmouth. And that's also what we've been working on throughout our gap year. I kind of got more into that in college. I'll talk about that later, but also know a lot of people who started doing this during high school. So it's never too early to start working on side projects and trying startups out. So I also play the piano. It's one of my hobbies. I honestly, in high school, I really questioned whether I had the time for piano in my life, since I thought that everything had to be, impact driven. Like, how can I lead clubs, or how can I like do projects that have that demonstrate an impact? But piano really, I decided to keep it in my schedule, and I think it was a great choice because it gives me like the space that I need to be creative and express myself and just like have that little bubble of creativity. So yeah, I would definitely recommend keeping those hobbies in your lives. I'm also, so I think one of the things I want to highlight is kind of like the journey that I took in order to get to opportunities like fellowships or other entrepreneurship spaces. I think a lot of people don't talk about the different like stepping stones or like networking or all of these things. And right now, it seems that I like got immersed in this world so quickly, but I wish I had learned about a lot of these things before when I was a high schooler. The Kleiner Perkins Fellowship is a fellowship for people, basically people in tech. So people studying computer science or interested in product management at tech companies, and who are also interested in working on their own startups. So they kind of support you through internships and also with funding for your startup. So I mentioned I'm taking a gap year. I've been working on a side startup in the internship recruiting space with my friends. And I also interned at Microsoft last summer. Then this the second semester actually this year, I was at Facebook, and then this summer I'm at a slightly smaller company called Sigma, and they're super cool. They're kind of more on the startup-y side, and they're building like a platform for people to design websites. I love board games and exploring the city. Those are some of the things I've gotten to do in Boston and with people around campus. And here I just have a few more slides showing kind of like my personality or my hobbies, my interests, kind of to show that I am a normal human being too. So, I guess, well, firstly, a few pictures of like what I did in high school, or like what brought me energy. I think these were the things that I actually like really grinded for, and like, these were the things that I was able to do a lot of my time because they brought me so much energy, and because I found really incredible people and people who inspired me in these communities. So first, Model UN, mentioned that before. Also math competition, I did a lot of that. It was really hard. I honestly had a lot of imposter syndrome and didn't feel like a math person because I was surrounded, well, I went to a really competitive high school where math competition was pretty intense. And so this was one of the things that I kept in my life just because it was hard and because I knew these people were pushing me more than anything else. And so, yeah, I think Model UN and math competition were two things that really pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me do things that were really scary, like speaking in public or failing math exams all the time. Like freshman year of high school, I was used to like, getting A's in my classes in middle school, then got to these math competition, like the program that we had, and started getting like 40% on these math comp exams. So just dove straight into all of these things. I think they really helped me grow. On the bottom right, or on the bottom left, that's a program that I really enjoyed before going to college called Google Computer Science Summer Institute. And I think it really helped like jumpstart my career in computer science at MIT. So would definitely recommend checking this program out. They also have a scholarship called the Google Generation Scholarship. And they have a lot of other scholarship programs. So would recommend Google programs in general. And bottom right, I did cross country for a long time in high school. Also something that I wasn't the best at. I honestly just did it because I enjoyed the people there. And I thought it also helped push me and helped helped me build things like mental endurance and focus and all of these things. So yeah, okay. Oh yeah, so some other things. I really like horror movies, watched a lot of them in high school. I remember like thinking it was like, I don't know, really interesting. I love talking about them because I like to analyze them too. So like small hobbies like that can turn into like things that actually help you have really interesting conversations with people. I also really like thinking about how to accomplish social impact. And so I've gotten into philosophy a little bit too. And that's on the right, that's a picture of my dog, also a source of motivation for me. And on the bottom, Switzerland, my favorite place that I visited, really enjoy traveling. Okay, and finally, some books and podcasts I also recommend. This is kind of another one of my hobbies where I love just like learning on my free time. I wish I did this a lot more in high school. I honestly was so like consumed by classes and my clubs that I didn't think about like all of these things that also help you learn tons, and also can provide a lot of inspiration. So would recommend, especially some books that can help you be more efficient and more effective in everything you do throughout high school. For example, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I was skeptical about it. I was like, I know like how to like kind of like build a calendar and like manage my tasks and whatever, but this book is so deep. It goes really into like how you can find a drive and how you can find a vision for yourself for everything you do. So I'd recommend podcasts if you want to learn more about like entrepreneurship, startups, or anything else in the world. And I think these actually like have really helped me like find communities that I like and connect with people, because these are like conversation starters. You can bring them up during interviews, anything like that. And they're also, it's just fun to like learn a bunch of different things throughout the day and not just like, have your classes where you're learning one thing every day. Okay. So now, I guess these were like my high school involvements. I have some tips related to them. I tried a lot of different things during high school. Model UN, I mentioned. So Model UN was my first activity that was completely non-STEM. I got into it because I was like, oh, maybe I should learn public speaking at some point. But it actually opened up a world for me that I had never expected before. In middle school. Like, I had only taken, computer science classes, and I was like, yeah, I like tech, I like building things, but I also really couldn't see myself sitting at a desk coding for the rest of my life. And when I started doing Model UN, I started going to conferences, having really dynamic discussions with people, bringing people together to build solutions for problems that were really pressing. For example, malnutrition in India, or how can we help countries transition to more alternative energy sources, and all of these policy related things. And I found a niche where I could combine technology with this interest in terms of a lot of tech solutions for a lot of these global problems. So I found myself, like, during conferences really excited about, like, hey, like, what if we build this like network for people to deliver food packages with this sort of technology to the communities that are suffering most from malnutrition. And like, I got really excited about the implementation of this technology. And so I realized that I didn't really have to choose in between computer science and policy or international development. And that's when I kind of realized that entrepreneurship would be the space for me, where I could tackle all of these issues, always be like thinking about like connecting with people, like how can I help this certain community, and then building technological solutions, and also studying a little bit of the other nonprofit or other urban planning side to see how I can implement them. Okay, so the third thing on here, engineering fair. I did a lot of, it's basically science fair, but the engineering branch of it. And this was something that I think it was very intimidating because, you see all of these like other people like trying to solve cancer with like all of these science fair projects. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm really not going to get to the level that I need to get for this. But I kept doing it because it was something I really enjoyed. I remember my sophomore year of high school, my project was something like atrocious and just monstrous. It was like this like huge contraption that I built to turn the pages of sheet music for musicians. Since I like played the violin, and I was like, like I don't like turning the pages manually, so I'm going to build this thing to like turn it for me. And it used like this like really complicated mechanism. It was huge. I had to like carry this thing around school, and everyone made fun of me for it. But I was really excited about it. It was like kind of like a nerdy thing where I was like, I built this like a pencil first as an axle, and like this like really scrappy like foam wheel. Yeah, how did I get the materials? I actually just went to like Jones Fabric or something and built a really scrappy first version. And then after that, I was able to find resources. If you're interested in working on projects like these and need to find more high-tech resources, I would highly recommend reaching out to local universities and connecting with professors that might be doing research in the fields, because they love to mentor and like help out. And you can definitely get resources from universities in the area if your high school doesn't provide them. But yeah, I was able to just kind of like work in the lab at my high school and get this thing together. It broke 3 times. I had to restart 3 times. But I eventually was able to get to the state science fair and talk about my like sheet music turner. And even though I still look back on it, it's like kind of like a cringe moment, because it was like something I don't think anyone would have used. It was huge, but I ended up turning it in for my MIT application as one of my portfolio aspects, as one of my portfolio components. And who knows, maybe they kind of liked the fact that I was just nerding out about this contraption. So yeah, don't feel intimidated. Just go for what gives you energy, and just you don't have to build it perfect the first time. You can just put things together that work and then create a story for it. How is it helping people? What problem are you passionate about solving. And then that story will help push you through and then iterate and make it better. Okay, college summer programs. So I also have a list of, well, I guess these are like some links that are pretty helpful for programs, scholarships, fellowships, etc. The first link has a list of things that are, I believe, might be only for college students, but a lot of them you can still apply as a high schooler. I also did fly-in programs. I went to Cornell, Rice. I think those were my two fly-in programs, but I really enjoyed them. I would recommend them a lot. They it's so important. Hopefully they go to in-person soon. But even if they're online, you can still kind of tell the vibe of the college, meet people there. And I think you really want to feel at home at your college. It's when you compare colleges that have really similar academic rigor and opportunities and everything, it really just comes down to the people. And you want to make sure that you're in a community that helps you thrive as much as possible. So I would recommend those programs. The other summer programs I did, these weren't fly-in programs, these were programs I did during the summers of my high school years. I did Stanford pre-collegiate studies after my sophomore year, and that helped me take a web development course at Stanford and helped me meet a lot of cool people. Then I did the program that Angelica mentioned before, SAMS. I did Summer Academy of Math and Science at Carnegie Mellon. It was also a really cool place to meet a lot of people that actually now are my friends at MIT. And then I mentioned this before, but I did Google Computer Science Summer Institute after my senior year. And that was a really valuable program as well. I think the other thing I want to say about all of these summer programs is that you kind of start meeting a bunch of people that continually look for opportunities like this. It becomes such a small world, honestly. You run into the same people over and over again, and it really helps push you because you have now this community that isn't just your high school. It's abroad and from people all across the country or across the world that are very ambitious and resourceful and passionate. And I think that is a component that can help bring a lot of motivation and also help connect you with other opportunities. You can find out about a lot of different programs that people are doing, or you can also join projects that they might be working on, getting and form a team now that a lot of people are doing remote projects and building stuff together. So I think that's a really cool aspect of these programs. For international students, I would recommend looking into online conferences, things where you can still meet people and meet students who are passionate about the same areas as you are. I didn't go to too many conferences. I've gone to more during college, but I wish I had looked into tech conferences or international development conferences. There's something called Impact Labs that hosts an annual conference that's super inspiring. These are all open. I mean, there's a lot open to high schoolers. So I would recommend those if you're an international student. Okay, and also did community service. Like I mentioned before, I love empowering girls in STEM and coding. And during high school, I was always looking for opportunities to do this outside of my classes. I was able to go to Columbia, where my family's from, and I connected with one of the directors of a foster home there, and I was able to teach the girls there coding for a couple of months. And it was something that I was none of my friends had really done anything like that, and I kind of just looked for another opportunity to do something completely out of my bubble. And I went to this foster home and brought some slides on what I would be teaching the girls, and it was something they had never hosted before or done. It was really hard. It was I had to account for a lot of cultural differences that I hadn't thought about before. How can I teach these loops and coding structures to girls that have never that weren't raised with the same kind of academic background and privilege that I had in the United States. And so these things can kind of also expose you to a lot of different perspectives and can teach you a lot. And I think these things are really helpful to have during your high school career. You want to try things outside of your bubble so that you learn as much as possible, essentially, and make an impact that's unique and that you can continue doing after high school as well. Okay, I also did music competitions. So I mentioned I play the piano. This was something that was like very different from my classes and STEM, and I had to sacrifice a little bit when I got to senior year and had to like start applying to colleges. But I would definitely recommend, if you have a hobby like this, if you have a sport, if you play music, anything like that, keep it, because it like makes these are the things that like make us human and like bring us energy and life. And like, even if you don't get to a level where you can put these things on an application, there's always a way you can show it to colleges. Although that shouldn't be like the focus, just do the things that bring you that you're passionate about and bring you energy. But when it does come to the time where you apply, a lot of colleges accept like portfolios where you can send in videos, or I mean, there's also things for sports, and you can even talk about it during your interview. But just anything that you get excited about, that's so valuable. And yeah, I would just recommend, like, I think I overwhelmed myself a lot during high school and didn't leave a lot of time or space for myself. So just like the most important thing is to know what to say no to know like what to take out of your schedule. And that's completely fine. Like if you feel that something isn't contributing to you, or you're not learning from something, or you're not growing in a certain community or activity, like definitely think about quitting, because there's so many more opportunities out there. And if you give a little bit of space for yourself and time and like space where you're not completely focused on something, then you'll be more creative and you'll think about like a cool side project you can do, or something outside of your classes, outside of clubs. There's no limit. So don't limit yourself to a bunch of things on campus, and don't overwhelm yourself. That's something I wish I had done better. Okay, I can talk a little bit about college life. So clubs, research, communities, it's all a lot. At MIT, we call it the fire hose, because you just get like a splash of water and it's a lot to take in, and you don't know like what to choose from, or what to choose, or like you don't know how to navigate all of these things at once. But I think it's something like super enriching about your college experience. I mean, like for me personally, the people are my favorite thing about MIT. And so I've kind of tried to navigate college with that in mind, you know, making time for people, making time for communities in my clubs, and learning from the people around me, rather than just like, you know, doing problem sets for my classes all the time and trying to get the best grades. So when you get to college, you realize that things are a lot more deep and intensive, or I guess more intense than they were in high school, because I think in high school there were a lot of like clubs where I could just like go to like the weekly hour meeting and just, you know, see it as a cool chance to connect with people with the same interests. But in college, people go all in on clubs and research. And, you know, if you join a club, then you're going to be leading stuff, you're going to be leading programs, events, and it's going to take a lot more time and a lot more like energy. So when you get to college, you have to focus even more on the things that you're passionate about, which is a little bit scary, but you have all of your freshman year to try out a bunch of things and then choose the things that you really love. And right now I'm still trying to work on this, but I've gotten to like 3 or 4 extracurriculars that I'm really excited about. And so, in terms of research, research sounds intimidating. It sounds like you have to have like already like your undergrad degree or a PhD. I think this varies per college, and I am speaking from a place of privilege where like at MIT, they do give us a lot of opportunities to do research, but I think that there a lot of labs look primarily for people who have potential and are excited and are passionate and are driven to like learn what the lab is doing. So I think this is like across universities. Once you get to college, if you are passionate about learning more about like machine learning, or if you're excited about bioengineering or anything like that, well, I think bioengineering might need a little bit more experience, but just try to look for labs that can mentor you and once you join the lab, they can give you the resources to kind of get yourself started and get up to speed. And you don't have to have a ton of experience. So don't stress out. Like if you don't have time to do any kind of like research projects during high school, no worries. Like there's so many people who go into the research sphere in college and just kind of pick up the things along the way. And finally, communities on campus. I think campus communities are the most important thing, like I mentioned. So yeah, you just want to surround yourself with like very genuine relationships. Like you want to connect with people. And I think that's something that I'm still working on, where I want to meet so many different people, but I remember that I need space to actually like genuinely connect with people and like do intentional, kind of like make it more intentional, like just go into the city with people or talk to people about their life stories or their background, where they came from, like all these things that are like help you be vulnerable with people and help you open up and help you form these like strong communities and relationships. Mentors, I think, are super important as well. This is kind of a concept that wasn't really prevalent in high school, because I think like people, you know, you were surrounded by people doing like similar things and you kind of like knew more of what you were doing. But there's also things that mentors can guide you on, such as like finding what career you want to go into, or finding how to push yourself in certain ways, or finding opportunities outside of campus and outside of your classes and clubs. And I would definitely recommend looking for people in the industries that you're interested in, or maybe even like college students studying the major that you're interested in. Reach out to them. People are so willing to help. Like just send them an email or ask them if they can point you to someone else, you know. And I think there's two types of people that help you along the way. One is a mentor. A mentor works with you one-on-one and helps you, like kind of like gets to know you. You check in with them every 3 months. It's like a two-way street where you can also help them. You can also like send them cool articles or like give them, talk to them about how their projects are going. And this is kind of a mentor relationship. And the second one I would say is advocates. Advocates are different from mentors in the fact that it might not be like a one-on-one kind of like something where you touch base every 3 months, but they're people that see your potential and they advocate for you. So that this could be like they write you a recommendation or they talk about you to someone else, and that eventually gets you to an opportunity or things like that. So look for those people in your life. It's also all based on spontaneity. Like these things will just pop up. And so you want to expose yourself to these like spontaneous relationships as much as possible. So that means like what I mentioned before, going to programs, going to conferences, talking to people, getting out of your bubble, and finding people along the way who could help you. Thirdly, balancing entrepreneurship and academics. This is something I navigate all the time. So I have a side startup, and it's pretty intense, like navigating like a side project, especially if you're like trying to like launch it or trying to scale it, or you're managing like a lot of teams or a lot of people. And balancing that with classes is pretty challenging. But the way I've found that it's possible to do that is, well, one, not overwhelming yourself. Like I said, like there is a limit. You need sleep and everything, and taking care of yourself and spending time with people. But if you are dealing with like a side project or something that you're passionate about that you want to scale, then I recommend doing it like steadily and just putting in like small drops in the bucket every week. So organizing yourself where you can work a little bit on that every week, and then gradually all of the things will fall into place. Learn how to delegate things. So every week, figure out what you got to do, like what kind of who on your team, or maybe like how to recruit people to get onto your team so you can delegate things. And this is how you can get all those projects done more effectively. So that's kind of like what has helped me. And finally, networking and getting involved in the startup community. Networking is like a big like buzzword where it's like you feel like it's like fake, and it's like, oh no, like I don't want to like use people. And yes, this is like definitely true. You don't, it's not something, it's not like a strategy. Don't see it as like a game. Networking is honestly just like genuinely connecting with people who share the same passions and goals as you, and maybe are working in projects in the same space. So it's honestly just like what I said before, getting out of your bubble and having cool conversations with people, whether it's like online, connecting with people online, or like through conferences or maybe hackathons, things like that. And like keeping those people in your network somehow, whether it's like LinkedIn or even Instagram. I have like some people on Instagram who I've met at Model UN conferences, and I check in with them. So keeping those people in your life, and learning a lot from the people around you. And also, I guess like looking for ways to help people is super important. Like not because you expect anything in return, but helping people helps you a lot in the process, and can just help you like build a stronger community, and make it seem more like you're going through this journey together with people. And getting involved in the startup community, some things I would recommend for the startup community, it can be a little like, there's a lot of like poems I have about the startup community where there's a lot of barriers still, and it's like based on like connections or things, barriers basically. But look for people who are in the community. They're always willing to help and like point out the things to you, like different opportunities that you can have, or like maybe like in terms of college, there's like different events you can attend. There's like venture capital groups that help students a lot, and a lot of the times these aren't visible to a lot of colleges, which I think is something that should be changed. But reach out to people, they'll show you all of these things, and there's a lot of people willing to help, especially like people that are farther along the startup world. Like if you see like a cool startup founder, or yeah, like just anyone who you can reach out to, like email them. Like they love seeing really ambitious young people and helping them out. Okay, yeah, so I can talk a little bit about majors in college. I know like as a high schooler, I was kind of like, yeah, like I'll just go to computer science because I guess I like programming. Like it was just kind of my what I assumed I would be doing for all of my college years, and just like another hurdle, you know. But there's actually so many ways you can make your college curriculum a lot more nuanced and a lot more interesting and catered to your interest specifically. So at this point, I know I am majoring in computer science, but it's computer science plus. There's so much that I'm putting in as well. So like I mentioned, I'm minoring in urban studies and planning. So that's like finding how to work on like smart city technology, or how to apply data analytics to city metrics, and how to make cities more efficient and help populations in need, and all these things. And I know so many friends who have also switched majors so many times. So it's also not something that has to be static. Honestly, like some people don't decide their majors until like sophomore, junior year. And I guess this also varies per college, but I think there's so many ways you can shape the curriculum to be exactly what you want it to be. And this is something you'll refine over time. So don't feel pressed to like don't feel like you're marrying your major, and don't feel like you have to decide that super early on. And computer science courses, yes, computer science courses were very intimidating when I was coming in. I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't done algorithms before. And there were a bunch of people who, you know, had done like computer science competitions in high school, and were like really good at leet code. And it was intimidating, but there's so many people who come into college who have never coded before. Like I'd say at least half of my friends who I do problem sets with haven't coded before. And this is at MIT. So you can find this like anywhere. And a lot of people just come in because they know they have a passion for problem solving, and they're interested in exploring CS. And so don't be worried about that. There's also like office hours, at least at MIT. And so office hours, like there's like students who have taken the class before who are there like at least for like 5 hours a week to help other people in the class. And they like have literally saved my life in all of my computer science classes. Like they guide me through the problems and like discuss with me like how I can approach this problem, and also help me prepare for exams. And so you aren't going to do it alone. Like there's a lot of resources that you can reach out to for your CS courses. Okay, so for internships, like I mentioned, I've done like 3 software engineering internships, and I think I would definitely recommend like looking for internships early on. Angelica mentioned, I think, a couple of these, but there's a lot of programs open to freshmen, even like some of these are open to people like rising freshmen, so once you come out of high school. And so those include like Facebook University, also Google STEP and Microsoft Explore. Those are 3 of the most popular ones that I hear people applying to. And but also like don't feel like you can also do these later on. They're open to freshmen, but I know like also sophomores, juniors, seniors end up doing these programs as well once they're getting into computer science. So yeah, I would just recommend if you're interested in getting like industry experience and seeing if you actually like computer science early on, then like look for these programs, they're available. And it might feel a little intimidating to like think that you don't have, maybe you haven't done like really big side projects, or you haven't like launched a website or something, you know, you've just been kind of playing around, or like have done like a couple of tutorials, and that's totally fine. I would recommend trying to like go through one of these tutorials on YouTube, or maybe a web development course, and build something. It doesn't have to be perfect. Web development is hard. Software engineering is hard. Also, like if you're doing things like ML, those are pretty challenging. So as long as you have something that's like a side project that you can talk to people about, like you can kind of talk through your thought process for how you built it, or what resources you used, just put that on your resume. And maybe you'll get to talk about it during your interview. And I put some links on the doc that I sent for that, for like learning coding, or if you're interested in hackathons. I think those are like super helpful for getting your foot in the door and working on side projects that you can put on your resume or talk about during interviews. And yeah, the other thing, I guess I would recommend look for like other things that you can get experience in. It doesn't have to be industry experience. It can be working on a project, like building a website for a certain club, or working in a lab that does computer science related things, or it could be doing one of these programs. I remember I did Google Computer Science Summer Institute, and that was the first thing I put on my resume. So yeah, just look for any sort of other programs like that can help you. Looking for internships, LinkedIn just make a LinkedIn. LinkedIn will show you all the internships you can apply to, and then you can just send off your resume. I mean, I think you come in with a mentality that like it's like so like grueling to go through these application processes, just because you like came out of like working on so many essays and going through all of those hurdles. It's slightly easier. It's still kind of like a tough process in college, just because you have to apply to so many companies, but it's really just your resume. So just try to like get some eyes on your resume, send it to some people who can give you tips, and then that's really all you need to apply to internships. Preparing for interviews. So I think this was mentioned before, but I would recommend LeetCode or others. Yeah, I think LeetCode is primary one that has helped me prepare for coding interviews. You just want to know your basic algorithms, which you can definitely learn on your own. You don't have to wait for like a college class to learn those, and do a lot of practice talking through the problems with people. It's like software engineering internships are not just about, you know, hacking stuff up and being good at analyzing complex problems, but there's so much about communication, working with people, explaining well what you're doing, and that's how you also get evaluated during the internship. So you really want to focus on those things too. You want to focus on like how to like collaborate with your interviewer, like what are the right questions to ask about a certain problem, or like how can you clearly explain what solution you're trying to build. And software engineering, I think I like Angelica said, I didn't really know what coding really was until I started doing internships. Even when you're doing algorithms classes in college, those aren't representative of software engineering at all. it's in college or in high school, the computer science classes that you take are very theoretical. They're very based on these like computer science concepts, or maybe like how to like sort through data, or how to like classify data, how to build a model. But software engineering is a lot more like being good at Googling and being good at reverse engineering things, I would say. It's actually like not that much time writing code. It's a lot more going through a code base that has all of the code from the company and understanding the pieces and parts of it, and understanding how to change something so that flow works differently, or so that the website looks a little bit different, or things like that. So I think the best thing you can do to get good at software engineering is just doing software engineering. So getting that industry experience. And I haven't found classes that have given me that exact same experience, where you are given a huge code base and have to work on small features or a project that changes the code base somehow. So I saw there's a question in the chat. How would you reach out to mentors for an opportunity to help out with your research? I think I would be afraid in case of bothering them. Yeah, I also was like, oh my God, I'm literally like a high schooler or like a freshman in college, and like this researcher is doing insane things with AI or ML. Like, what am I, like, which, no one gave me the authority, but really just like trust in the fact that you are right now looking for those opportunities. You have the potential and you have the passion and the drive to be doing this, and they appreciate that so much. And a lot of like these people who are working on research are super busy. So if you do get people who ghost you or don't respond, that's so normal. When you're applying to research in college, you usually like try to account for a response rate of 25% less, because people are so busy, but not because they don't want to help you. It's just because they get a lot of things. So keep shooting your shot and be confident that, you know, all of these things, you don't have to have a lot of experience before going into them. You just be confident in your ability to learn, and that you'll pick them up quickly because you are passionate about those things. I would also recommend just like small technical things when you're reaching out to mentors or writing emails like that to join a lab or join research. Put your resume on there and get feedback on your resume beforehand. And your resume during high school, it doesn't have to have like industry experience. It can just have side projects or even classes that you've taken, clubs that are related, anything like that. And write a paragraph on why you think their research is cool. So you gotta do your research on their research first, and mention the specific things that you think that you thought about their research when you read through the things on their website, like what you thought was cool, things like that. And then another paragraph on like how you could help. So write about your skills, right? Like not necessarily like your technical skills, but like talk about your personal skills, or why you would be, how you could work on a project with them. Happy to answer more questions on that. So feel free to ask more in the chat. Okay, I also wanted to talk about some things that I've learned throughout high school and college, just overall things that you don't really think about that much because you're so consumed with the little like, deadlines and projects and classes and things that are tangible and like right in your face. But all of these things on this slide are more long-term, and they help you a lot. They're very valuable in the long term. They give you drive, they give you a vision, motivation, resources, opportunities, and they help you build things like a network or mentorship relationships and a community overall. So firstly, finding role models. As a person who's gone through a lot of like imposter syndrome and all of that, I think I really underestimated the power of a role model who has something that resonates with you. So I'll go into that a little bit. It doesn't have to be a role model that looks like you or like has the same background as you, but it should be a role model that you identify with in a certain way. So maybe they are really passionate about the certain niche that you're excited about. So for example, social entrepreneurship, or they really like working through problems in a certain way. They really like collaborating with people, or they're really good at let's see, they're really good at making technology more accessible to people, focusing on diversity, accessibility, like things like that resonate with you, and you can kind of see yourself in their shoes, not specifically working on those projects or working in that job, but more thinking like them, like acting like them. You maybe have the same values as them. Find those role models. And yeah, they will give you so much energy. They'll help you, like, they'll help understand your goals as well and guide you. Setting and accomplishing long-term goals. Okay, so this is like a tough one because I feel like throughout high school, I had this vision of myself and I kind of stuck to that vision for a long time, and it was hard to change it. It's hard to change your long-term vision for what you want to do when you're constantly submitting essays, you're kind of solidifying your views on yourself and everything. And like, it's, once you submit an essay, it kind of feels like you've like decided on that part of yourself and it's hard to change. But be open to changing your long-term goals. Go back, think about them. Is this really fulfilling for me? Is this really what I want to do? Am I growing the most in this certain thing that I'm doing? And so establish long-term goals like, hey, like I want to get to this leadership position in this club in the next 3 years, or hey, I want to like learn how to do a really cool machine learning project in the next year. It's like, I would definitely recommend to establish those long-term goals so you kind of like are able to grow a lot in a certain way and like dive deep into a subject topic, but also be willing to change it. Be willing to, like, if you didn't like this, then great, that was a success because you learned that you didn't really like that. So I think it's a combination of short-term and long-term goals as well, where you want to have like, you want to structure your work schedule around weekly sprints. Don't try to micromanage yourself. Don't try to be like, okay, this day I'm going to do this, at this hour I'm going to do this. That is never effective. I would recommend establishing kind of like what you want to get done on a weekly basis. That was also in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So yeah, go back and check that chapter of the book for like kind of deciding how to structure your goals and the things you work towards. So imposter syndrome is something that plagues all of us, even after college, like throughout everything. I've talked to a lot of mentors who are already in industry and like founders, like startup founders who always go through imposter syndrome. What I've found to work throughout imposter syndrome, you do have to be okay with like failure, and you do have to be okay with the fact that you aren't good at everything, and like there are some spaces where you do need to grow a lot, and that's okay, because some people come in with like a background that you don't even know about, but you be confident in the skills that you have to like learn to follow your passion and all of that. That's my like caveat about this, where like I do find it really useful to be okay with like the fact that you do need to grow, but there's so many things that you're awesome at that you don't even know you're awesome at. And you it's easy to, like Angelica said, look at other people and think that, you know, it's not worth your time to go towards a subject because you're not going to find spaces in the industry since there's so many other people who have more experience or things like that. But that's all an illusion. It's based on like, you know, a bias in what you see and what other people do, because you're really only going to learn about mostly the successes of people, but everyone fails in everything they do and everyone has to start somewhere. So be confident in the fact that you're excited about something, and that excitement is going to get you to do really cool things with that project or with that thing you're trying to learn. Yeah. Okay. Time management is also something that you learn to refine over time. It's something you're going to fail in this as well. Like you're either going to try to put too many things on your plate, or you're going to spend way too much time on something that you don't really like doing. It was just hard and you spent a lot of time on it. So know that that's also a process that you got to look back and reflect and see how you could have been more efficient in some things and how you could have made more time for the things that you actually love. But I would say definitely leave time for yourself and leave time for reflection. When you're just like running all the time and not taking a breath, it's very easy to lose sight of the things that really matter and lose sight of the overall goal that you have in mind. So that could mean like leaving like 20 minutes every day to just sit down and read a book, or that could mean leaving a day in your week where you don't do anything productive. It's hard to get out of like the toxic productivity where like you feel guilty when you're not being productive. But I would say that unstructured time is really important for actually managing the rest of your time differently. And know your balance. I would say like a lot of times it does help to put more things on your plate, because then you manage to like do them all more efficiently. But everyone has a limit, especially when you get to college. Things take a lot more mental energy, and you do really need like your like 7-8 hours of sleep to function really well in everything you do that's like very intensive. And yeah, take that into account, and don't like, as long as you're doing things that you love, that give you energy, you don't have to you don't have to like find the most challenging thing in everything you do and push yourself in everything. I think that kind of covers the next point as well, deciding how to spend your time. I think like one perspective change when I got to college was that in high school, I tried to push myself in everything because I was like, oh, like I got to challenge myself. You know, I got to take the hardest like history class or hardest like English literature or whatever, because I need to challenge myself in everything. And that's a good mindset to have, but you're so much more effective in challenging yourself in the things that you really enjoy, or in the things that get you out of your comfort zone. So there's certain things that you want to focus on. If there's like a certain history class that you really don't like, it's really not like helping you grow in any way. You don't have to necessarily do the most in that class. Choose a class that maybe is hard. Maybe it's like, it's frustrating and like, you know, you have to, it's something completely out of your comfort zone, but you feel really fulfilled by it and you feel like it makes you grow. Spend your time on those things. Spend your time on trying new things all the time, and breaking out of your bubble and surrounding yourself by people who push you and all of those things. And finally, making connections with people, and not networking connections, not connecting with people on LinkedIn, but really getting to know people, because it will make such an impact on your drive, your motivation to do things, and also just your happiness, which is like very important. Yeah, I think that's something like you gotta leave space for just having intentional time with people throughout high school and college. Okay, so some tips for college applications. I want to leave some time for questions, so I'm probably going to go a little bit more quickly through these bullet points, but I would recommend starting early. You like, especially for the essays that Angelica mentioned are like important, you want to start kind of playing with some ideas early on and letting them bake, letting them like marinate in your mind, and seeing like coming back to them, thinking about how you feel about them. I remember I had I just had a notes doc on my phone, and whenever I thought about something cool, like, hey, like I feel like I have cool thoughts about this, or I feel like this like relates to my personality somehow, I would write a bullet point on that notes doc. And then I had like a whole list of different things, very random things that were kind of precious, or were kind of like interesting for me in some way, and somehow related to my narrative and my life story. So then you can come back to those topics and just kind of like don't try to make it perfectly the first time. Just write whatever comes to mind, because that's going to be the most authentic and most genuine thing that you could find. Look into yourself and your past, find threads. So look at the reason you do things. Once you get to like when you have to form a personal narrative, you want to find something that relates the things that you've done together. Like, for example, for me, I had a narrative about how I really liked doing origami when I was a little girl, because I really liked taking these small pieces of paper that were very simple first, and then putting them together, forming really complex, cool things that are more than the sum of their parts. And I also really liked like helping other people learn how to make origami. And so that was like my way of like, I really like empowering other people to also make these cool shapes. So I related that to like problem solving and Model UN, writing code, working on startup projects, everything. And so it doesn't all have to be like very abstract, and you don't have to force yourself to talk about things in like a very like, you know, pretty way or in a very fancy narrative if that's not your vibe. But that's something I would recommend. There's definitely something behind everything that you do, and you want to find your passions. You want to find like your like deepest drives. For standardized exams, I would recommend practicing and very like active practice. Like don't just like sit back and watch videos or read books. You know, those helps somehow for establishing a basis, but the most important thing is to actually do exams. And so get those Kaplan, Princeton books, find exams online, print them, go through them in an actual setting. What I did was I did a lot of practice exams, and I kept a document of all of the mistakes I made. When I went back and checked my exams, I categorized my mistakes. I was like, oh, this was like a reading mistake where I didn't notice this, or maybe this was a mistake where I overthought things. And then I would include an example of like the text or like something where I could like look back and be like, oh, now I understand why I did that mistake. And so then you can really like work most effectively on improving your blind spots, improving what you like need to work on in terms of your skills for those exams. Find teachers and mentors that remember you for something unique. So it doesn't have to be the class that's like most STEM related. Maybe you showed really great leadership skills in your English class, and that could also really help your application. Or I know some colleges require like a STEM teacher and an English teacher, but I guess if you considering those requirements, then you like want to plan for this ahead and try to form like a cool connection with a teacher. Or you don't have to be extra like talk to them after class every day, like that kind of thing if you don't want to do that. But try to show a personal part of yourself in a class, like, and be yourself with the teacher, and like ask the teacher for help on certain things, or talk to them about, you know, yourself. Try to like establish a personal connection with teachers, and then they'll remember you. Be genuine and authentic. Colleges are looking to build a cool community. So I get so many people who are like, what kind of people is this college looking for? And that's not the question you want to ask. You want to ask like, how can you show yourself in the most authentic way so that colleges know that they would love to have you like in their community, whether it's because you have like a really cool hobby, like to build things, or maybe you have a weird quirk and, you know, you're a fun person to be with, or maybe you have like a cool backstory of, I don't know, how you climbed a mountain, or I mean, those are all like kind of impressive things. It can also be very normal things like you like this type of movie or something. Things like that really contribute to a vibrant college community, and colleges want that. Colleges want normal people and people who will like form a fun and inspiring and like innovative environment. It depends, it like varies per college. It definitely like depends on what the college community is like and what kind of environment the colleges are trying to create. And that's why you want to apply to like a good range of colleges and be okay with whichever college you land in, because that means that you're going to thrive in that community the most. Ask for help. Show your essays to the people that know you the best. I remember talking to my parents a lot, like tell me about how I was as a child and all the weird things that I did as a child, so I can like better understand myself and why I do things, please. And those things really help. Like just talk with people who can give you an objective perspective of yourself and of your application. Let me see, what else do I have? Yeah, okay, so final tips in general in high school: do things that bring you energy. Honestly, like that's the biggest thing. Do things that you want to keep doing. If you're doing things that you hate doing, find out why. Find out, is this not helping you grow? Is this not satisfying? Do you have to do this? And what if you spent this time instead on a really cool side project where you can actually relate it to your passions much more? Always look around and think about how you can make things better. So this relates to like finding a space where you could innovate or create a cool project. So maybe it's like looking around campus, like what club is my campus missing? Or maybe it's thinking about a certain subject that you want to do research in. Like what is this, like what haven't I found in this subject that I am passionate about, and how could I contribute to that? So I think this is just a general thing of like taking a step back and like seeing how you can innovate or build something or do something unique and out of the status quo. Don't focus too much on grades. They're not that important, and it's much more important to do things that resonate with you and connect with you on a personal level, and where you can have a long-term sort of impact. And it doesn't have to be something where you like have like a demonstrated impact on something. It can be like a side hobby. Yeah, just stay true to yourself and find the most efficient way to kind of like do the minimum for the classes that aren't really related to your interests. Get a good sleep, take care of yourself, very important. Look for opportunities off campus. I've said this before, break out of your bubble and surround yourself by people who push you and support you. If you can't find them on campus, find them online at conferences around your city. There is no limit. Try new things and get out of your comfort zone. This is super important. You get to learn more about yourself. You get to grow in different ways. You create stories. The most important stories are the stories where you fail at something, you learn something about yourself, or you learned something about the world. So you want to fail fast. You want to like find the things where they're like they're risky. You don't want to be risk averse. You want to go into those new situations and break out of your boundaries and grow and learn from that. Okay. Wow. Sorry, I didn't finish the slide, but if you have any short questions, I can also drop my email. I'd be happy to help. I love talking about entrepreneurship or clubs or research, anything. Yeah. Thank you so much to Sci Teams, Carlos, Booker. Thank you for hosting us. I have loved like connecting with everyone here, and I hope this can serve as a resource and that I can help you guys later on as well if you have any questions.